Welcome to Fresh Humanitarian Perspectives, the podcast brought to you by the Humanitarian Leadership Academy. When we think about humanitarian response, we often think about meeting immediate needs. But what if our work could also help restore ecosystems, strengthen local food systems, and create the conditions for communities to flourish long after a crisis has passed? Well, that's exactly what we're discussing today in today's podcast episode. My name is Faye Loosley, and I'm the Sales and Accounts Lead here at the HLA. I'm joined by my co-host and colleague, Carmen Parkinson, our Communications Lead. And we're delighted to welcome our partners, James Atherton and Ansiima Casinga Rolande, also known as Rolande, from Re-Alliance. Re-Alliance is one of our wonderful Kaya partners. You joined us earlier this year, so a big welcome into the Kaya community. And you've launched an amazing new course on our platform. So for all those listening to this conversation, if you're intrigued and inspired to learn more after this podcast, please head over to kayaconnect.org to check it out, and we'll drop the link in the show notes. We really hope that this conversation will resonate with people working at the intersection of humanitarian response, community resilience, food systems, environmental stewardship, and locally led development. But perhaps even more powerfully, it's a conversation for those who feel that humanitarian work often addresses the symptoms without always having the opportunity to focus on that long-term development and those sustainable livelihoods. So to help us explore these topics, I would really love to start with the people behind that work. So James and Rolande, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your backgrounds, how you came to work at that intersection of humanitarian action and regeneration, and what first drew you to permaculture.
Hi, I'm Rolande. I live in Uganda, and now I'm a permaculture trainer. And my story is a bit so long, but I'm going to try to cut it short. The way I found myself in permaculture was because I wanted to do something for my community and for my family. My family left Congo and started living in a refugee camp, which was a completely different setting for us, like shifting a whole life. And my family and many other families faced the same kind of challenges, which included water, included education, included food, and all the basic needs for people to survive in a refugee camp. I, as the first child, though I was still young, I was like 15 or 16 that time, I started working to support my family and also help my parents into raising the younger ones. So I did a lot of different jobs until I found one where my role was to collect data from other refugees, other new refugees, like asking them about how to 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, and how they are coping up with the life that we are living in the camp. And during that time, I kind of discovered a lot, and it opened my eyes to like the main challenges that people were facing. I started trying to find a way that I can be useful, but of course, so I had to try to volunteer with some organizations that are doing that, but it also didn't work. I didn't have any experiences. So I later joined a group of other friends with the same mental who, and she does permaculture. At first, I would go back to my community and teach about food growing. That's what I was hoping to get from there. But really, it was not about only food growing. It was a lot. It was like opening a new world that I didn't know existed, but was right there. I learned a lot about education I learned about economics, I learned about food, I learned about sustainability. I actually learned so many things, and I realized like that there is so many conversations that people don't actually talk about, but which are right in front of us. And yeah, that's how I got into permaculture and up to now.
What an amazing story, Roland. Yeah, it's so great to hear your journey and how determined you were to build a successful life and thrive and look after your family at the same time through such hardship as well. So yeah, it's really amazing to hear that, and I'm sure James is extremely happy to have you on his team. Being in the heart of that. And yeah, James, how about you?
Oh, thank you, Faye. And thank you, Faye and Carmen, for having us on the podcast. We're so happy to be here. And yeah, like you say, Faye, I'm inspired and I learn so much every day from working with Roland. So thank you, Roland, for sharing your amazing story. You're such a wonderful permaculture teacher. And permaculture, I think for me, started when I'm from Australia, and my love of being out in wild nature really inspired me to look into how we can learn from living systems, which kind of is what permaculture is. It's how do we learn from the way that life works, the way that living systems works to meet our own needs. And that really resonates, I think, with what Roland was saying about how can we meet the challenges that we're facing as humans, but learn from the way that nature does it, the way that wild nature makes these challenges less burdensome, perhaps. So, for example, we often look at this, like Roland said, from a perspective of food needs. How do we meet our human food needs through in ways that also enrich the ecosystem and support the health of communities of people as well as biodiversity. And where I'm from in Australia, I mean, Roland mentioned Morag, a permaculture teacher, and actually we found this out much later. To be honest, Roland, I'm not sure if Morag knows this, so maybe I should tell her before this podcast is released. But actually, your teacher, Roland Morag, lives quite close to where I'm from in Australia, and some of her permaculture projects were my first example of permaculture, and seeing those were what opened my eyes to this amazing movement. So I think we actually come from similar backgrounds, which is quite interesting and quite funny. And then years later, we met and worked together. But permaculture, I think, is also quite hopeful, which is what draws me to it. It's in a way also a design movement because it's placing humans as these creatures that have this amazing capacity to change the world around us. And it's true, right? I mean, other species do the same. Other species change the world that they live in and change their habitats to suit their needs. But often we see humans doing this in ways that are quite destructive. We've changed the planet in such a way that the capacity to sustain life is going down, and we're creating a lot of harm to living systems, which are harming ourselves and humanity as well. I mean, we know that we're sadly nowhere near reaching the climate targets that we've collectively set. And in fact, estimates show that we're seeing now effects that we were meant to see later in the century in terms of the climate emergency. So we're living in this climate emergency, which can feel very intense. I mean, Carmen and Faye, you'll know that at the time of recording this podcast, we've just lived through quite severe heat waves across Europe, which has sadly and horrifically taken the lives of over 10,000 people just in the past few months alone. So we know that we're living in this intense climate emergency, and we need to make change. But how we do that, I feel, is where a lot of people have a difference of opinion. And that's where, for me, movements like permaculture actually can give us a lot of hope, because it places humans as us having the capacity to create change in the world around us, which we've seen us doing in a negative way. But actually, we can create so much positive change in the world around us too, through ecosystem repair, through stewarding biodiversity, through learning from how people have done this since time immemorial, and creating better ecosystem health that supports not only us, but countless other species. So for me, permaculture is really hopeful. And when you see, like Rolande was saying, when you see this in action in terms of how people access water, who struggled to access water before because of, they're creating landscapes which hold more water, which retain more water in the soil, and seeing how they can then meet their food needs. And, people who were struggling to access food now have this abundance. This is what inspires me about permaculture.
It's such a pleasure to have this chance to join Faye for this conversation together with you, James and Rolande. And just listening in already is so inspiring, because the fact that you centre that on hope is something that seems to be in short supply at times in these current times. So, you're talking about this as a movement as well, and that's based on individuals connecting ideas. And I love the fact that Rolande and James, you were connected via Morag, your permaculture teacher, and that connects your worlds together between Australia and Congo. It's just incredible, isn't it? So I'm already enjoying the start of this conversation. So thank you so much. So James, you already you introduced us to these concepts briefly on regeneration and permaculture. And admittedly, when Faye told us, oh, we have this Kaya partner called Realliance, and told me about regenerative humanitarian response, I was very intrigued, and also thought, oh, that's different. I've not really heard about this framed in the context of the humanitarian response that I'm kind of the world that we're in within the INGO, NGO structures, etc. So for our listeners who, like me, are new to this, I'd like to invite both of you to dig a bit deeper into these concepts and break that down for us. So could I come to you first, please, Rolande?
Yeah, sure. Well, regeneration and permaculture, sometimes I feel like it's relying has all these different terms, and sometimes it feels hard to actually dissociate them. Yeah. Especially when I visit people and they tell me, we do practice agroforestry, we do practice regenerative agriculture, we do practice this and that. It's all like under the same umbrella, which is permaculture. And permaculture is, like James said, it's a set of system. It's a system, and it's a set of principles that help us to live in harmony with nature, with ourselves, and to use the resources that we have in a good way. Like that could be the shortest definition of permaculture. Yeah. And regeneration, on the other side, it's a part of permaculture also, but it is where we learn to go deeper into rebuilding the systems that have been broken, but also not only build stronger than before. And permaculture and regeneration are here to teach us is we have done a lot of damage as human beings, because we need now to start looking forward, like how will Earth be like in the next 100, 200 years or 1,000 years? And it doesn't look quite good. Everybody knows that. But how about we start thinking now of solutions that will make sure that we don't only support what's remaining, but we also build structures that will support life in the future, that will protect all kinds of life. There are many animals that right now that maybe existed when I was born, and it's only 23 years ago, and they have been already extinct. And I feel like in the next 500 years, the children are going to learn about those animals like we hear about dinosaurs, and it's not something good. And if we don't do anything about about this, then it's not going to look good in the future. And we know everything in nature has their own role. So when they disappear, then it's going to only bring more distraction, even if we don't need them directly, like as food or as working material or clothes or anything, but they contribute to our life. If we think systematically, they come somewhere and they support the system somewhere that supports us and support the nature and everything else that's around us. So permaculture's main work is how do we make sure that as humans are living in harmony with ourselves first, like healing the inner self, and then healing the world that we live in, and making sure that the relationships we have with other people, with other species, and with the resources we have on this earth are used in a way that they support us, but also in a way that we don't harm any part of it, so the next generations can also live. Yeah. Yeah, James, maybe you can add on that.
Well, I just love, Roland, how you spoke about healing the inner landscape as well. I think that's so rich because for me, I think movements like regeneration and permaculture, it's almost a shift in a way of thinking as well. It's a shift in paradigm. It's a shift in the way that we see and interact with the world, as well as, like you say, learning from nature, which I call, which we see as principles, learning from how nature works, how nature kind of cycles nutrients, how nature supports life to thrive. So it's almost a kind of the 3 Ps. It's a paradigm shift, it's learning the principles, and then it's putting all that into practice, right? And what the humanitarian sector can really learn from this is that often the paradigm in the humanitarian sector is meeting the kind of urgent, immediate need. So it's kind of dealing with emergencies here and now, which saves lives, right? This is why the humanitarian sector does what it does to save lives. And I guess the invitation from regenerative movements and permaculture is to try to shift this slightly to build longer term resilience. So instead of just meeting immediate need, it's also about building the health and the resilience in the long term, like you were saying, Roland. And I do think you can do both. We've seen examples and case studies of meeting immediate need, like Realliance is a network of humanitarian actors across the world, across the globe, and all of our members are putting these paradigms, principles, and into practice. And we're seeing how you can meet immediate need. Say, for example, some of our members are working after environmental disasters that have sadly destroyed whole towns and sometimes cities and extreme loss of life. So meeting immediate need while also building the long-term resilience of place and of community. And we learn from how nature does that to implement that in our strategies. So this is what I think is relevant to the humanitarian sector. And there are some very interesting kind of cost-benefit analyses as well, too. If saving lives and healing ecosystems and building resilience isn't enough, it's also more cost-effective. So there are some very conservative estimates, actually, that for every dollar invested now in climate resilience, we save at least $10 in the future. And I think actually it's much, much more than this. So investing now, building longer term resilience of people and communities to face the oncoming climate shocks, to face what's coming to people. We know it's coming because we're experiencing it now, will not only save lives, but also it's a very good investment for the sector now. And Carmen and Faye, you were talking about our course on the Kai Connect platform, the Realliance course. There are some great case studies in the course about how we can bring this to action and what this can look like in a number of humanitarian scenarios. Especially, we focused a lot on protracted displacement. But of course, a lot of these can also be applied to immediate need and such as natural disasters or post-conflict too.
That's so fascinating, James and Roland. Thank you so much for that. I'm really interested, James, in the point that you made about the investment side of things and the sort of almost the economic case for regenerative approaches, because that's something that I'm grappling with a lot just in terms of the humanitarian sector generally, because of all the funding cuts and the shortfalls and this hyper prioritization that we talk of, where it's focused on life-saving interventions. Um, so I found that quite interesting that you said actually there are studies done around that. I wondered if you'd like to just share a little bit more, because I think that would be something that is probably not really thought about, that people might think about your approach as a very long-term, slow in inverted commas kind of approach.
That's really true. I mean, you're right that there is the immediate cost challenge for a lot of humanitarian actors right now, because there are massive, immense cuts to budgets, as we all know. And I think that's interesting from a localization perspective as well, because we're going to have to focus more on supporting people in place to have to build their capacities to be able to create change where humanitarian actors can't now support because of budget cuts. But in terms of investments now, you're absolutely right that any money spent now does have long-term benefits. And what we notice with regenerative interventions, so permaculture practices, whether that's in the agriculture sector or whether that's eco-building, so building climate-resilient homes using natural materials sourced from place. And like Roland says, often this is much cheaper because permaculture focuses on using locally available materials, kind of using what's there and kind of mapping your resources to make it cheaper so that people can do these climate resilient actions. But what we also notice with permaculture and regeneration is that there are so many what we call co-benefits. So not just for humans and not just kind of economic benefits in terms of the kind of cost effectiveness of so many of these solutions, but also permaculture interventions have been shown to boost biodiversity by tenfold more, by kind of wild amounts. Wildlife. That was an unintentional pun. But so many of these benefits that are almost unexpected and not kind of written about in the kind of case for support at the beginning of projects, such as increases in biodiversity, increases in livelihoods from nature-based livelihoods for communities living in these areas, increase in crop yields from organic and regenerative agricultural interventions. So not only are regenerative interventions often cheaper than these more kind of technical or conventional approaches, but they also have a lot of monetary and economic benefits going into the future, such as more economic benefits for local people. So it's interesting that we're seeing a lot of these benefits, and there are many studies that have shown these kind of growing and multiple co-benefits over time in regenerative and permaculture interventions. But the fact that it builds also climate resilience, builds resilience to shocks, climate shocks in the longer term, I just think is a real no-brainer, to be honest. We need to be shifting a lot of our practices to meet these needs. And I think the gap there and why it's not happening right now is because, well, I think there are a number of reasons, some of them quite political in the sense that these are interventions which don't necessarily fit within a neoliberal capitalist frame, so that people feel like they maybe don't want to invest in these. But it also relies on a little bit of, like we were saying earlier, that paradigm shift, that it is more about supporting kind of local capacity rather than humanitarian actors coming in, which I feel like in the sector we're moving away from this anyway, right, toward localization. So I'm happy to see that.
That's amazing. I mean, even in this conversation so far, I'm already inspired. And it's great that you, James, and Roland are both storytellers, because maybe I feel like this is the vital ingredient and magic for this paradigm shift, for this awareness and understanding, a more holistic understanding of what this is, rather than something that's on the fringes. It's something that is, has these, I love that, like you said, co-benefits. That speaks everyone's language, right? Co-benefits. So yeah, I was really taken by that. So thank you so much. So just picking up on some of those points that you've already touched on around locally led humanitarian response and that shift towards working directly with communities. I wonder if you could kind of speak to a bit more about this context that we're in. You already alluded to it, about the climate crisis. That's just so, is like you've said, even in recent weeks, it's not abstract. It's affecting lives right now, in really terrible ways. So, and then obviously, if we look at the broader global context of ongoing conflict and unmet humanitarian need, it's obviously a very challenging situation. So could you kind of bring in your approaches and overlay that on the localization agenda and explain to me why it's more important than ever? Could we come to you first, please, Roland?
Yeah, sure. So as I always tell, when I'm talking about permaculture in a classroom right now, it's not that hard of a lesson to teach, because people are already living the consequences. So it's easier for them to kind of understand and pay attention to the solutions, because it has already happened to them. And it has happened to many communities. And most of the times we hear things from afar, like 10,000 people died, and it's just a number, and we hear it right now, and in 30 minutes, 1 hour, we'll hear another news, and it won't be relevant anymore. But when it has affected you, then you know that it's there. And I think that's why as humans didn't actually act on this at first, until we started seeing how damaging it is to ourselves, to our future generations, until it has reached our homes. That's when we are starting to wake up. And still, there are many people in the mansions who still don't believe it. Talking about localization in this context is very important, because someone will act depending on what they have seen, and someone will heal a land they know is going to serve them back, more than healing a land that they're not sure they'll even ever go there. We've seen it a lot. Yeah. So I feel like localization in this context is very important, because it helps people to keep their resources and to protect themselves, and to also protect their land. Like, people are very connected to the land. Even if start leaving their land when it has been destroyed, people don't leave their land when it's still productive. They don't leave it when the cultures and are still going on. They don't leave it when the happiness, when the families are still coming together. They leave it when there has been disconnection between them and the land. So yeah, and it's not only being alive, but also the interconnectedness of everything happening in the community, feeling of being alive, really. You can be alive, but feeling alive is another different thing. Yeah. So localization actually helps people to grow, to grow and to create like a local system with finances, with their resources they have, and also to connect with the outer world when needed, not depending on it. It creates a sense of dependency on outside help. And when you don't live on help from outside, then if it's not there, then you will survive on your own. I mean, we've seen, well, in Congo, actually during the wars, sometimes there would be like let's say the roads are blocked and there can't be communication of goods between two different villages. And the most vulnerable villages will be the ones that were depending on the other villages. That can also, even continental level with exchanges. So what localization teaches us, the most self-reliant you can be, in case, so okay, to a point that you don't need that much help from outside. And we know that humans have survived this way for a very, very long time until we started depending on outside help. So yeah, it's actually a economy within the villages, having our own resources, having access to them, and having control, like full control on them. There are countries like for example Kenya that have restricted like sharing of seeds, and that's just, I don't know, that's just ununderstandable. I mean, I don't know when and how that kind of law was voted, but it just doesn't make sense to the way humans should live. And localization is going to kind of uplift everyone into their own world, into their own system, and give everyone a role to play. Because when you are sourcing everything at home, then everyone has something to play, has a role to play, and there is not just one person controlling everything for everyone, then everyone else is poor, just working for that one power. But everyone has a role to play, everyone helps inside, everyone does this, and the community is relying on each other than relying on outside help. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roland. I felt really moved actually when you were saying that feeling alive is a different thing from just simply existing, and how you speak about the
Yeah.
community and that interconnectedness. I thought that was really, really powerful. Could I come to you, James? Could you sort of share your thoughts on this?
Thanks. I mean, I think Roland said it all. And I mean, what came to me when you were speaking, Roland, is the importance of, in permaculture, we ground all of our work in 3 core guiding ethics. And they really resonated. As you were speaking, Roland, those were kind of really singing to me. Everything you were saying really spoke to those core ethics of earth care, so caring for the earth, caring for living systems, people care, caring for communities and people, and fair share. So that's kind of like equitable distribution, earth care, people care, and fair share. And I really think something that inspired me about what you were saying, Roland, is about how communities can come together to support one another in times of crisis. And often that can rely on international solidarity. So of people wanting to support our kind of global friends in times of need. But the real importance of supporting people in a way that has local autonomy, rather than kind of sending in ideas from the global north to the global south. It's about supporting how people want to act and how people want to respond, that's culturally appropriate and that's relevant and contextual to their lands and to their spaces. Because often humanitarian actors in the global north won't have any idea about the local landscapes necessarily. So this is why we need localization. We need people to show us how to respond in ways that is contextual, that does resonate with local people and the land, and that is led by local people rather than having all the power in the global north. So that's what really sung to me when you were speaking, Rolande. And beyond that, I just think now the humanitarian sector can't meet the needs of people, not only because of budget cuts, but because over the next few decades, we're going to have tens of millions more displaced people by climate shocks, let alone the kind of intersecting polycrises of things like conflict and resource deprivation and economic migration. So many, many more people are going to be displaced and are going to be feeling these effects over the coming decades. And at the moment, the humanitarian sector can't meet all these needs, let alone going into the future. So we need to be buffering this localization approach with local talent, local wisdom, really building the capacity of people to be able to respond in times of crisis in ways that are locally relevant, culturally contextual to the way that the land and the landscape is, so it can meet people's needs, but also ecosystem needs ongoing. So I think this is why localization is not only important, but really integral to the way that we respond going forward.
Really interesting. And I think your point on the fact that with the growing scale of crises, polycrises around the world, and the fact that the humanitarian sector can't continue to meet those needs, and it's about passing that empowerment and leadership onto local people. The question I guess then kind of shifts to, how do we do that at scale? How do we do that at scale in an accessible way, to support those communities to have the skills and the knowledge they need to respond in the immediate term, but then also to build those that resilience in the long term. And I guess maybe that threads nicely into the course that Realliance has published onto Kaya. I would really love to learn a little bit more about the course that you have decided to publish onto Kaya. And a couple of questions in that for me are, what initially led you to deciding a course could be a great idea to reach people, and some of the learning outcomes that anybody listening that would like to take the course can expect to achieve when they complete it. So James, I don't know if you wanted to take that question first of all. I know that we have been speaking for quite a few months now, and you were a part of joining Kaya at the start. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then Rolande, I know that you've been a big part in designing that course as well. So it'd be great to hear from your perspective too afterwards.
Thank you so much, Faye. It's been such a joy to work with you all at the Humanitarian Leadership Academy and Kaya. And the course was a really important moment for the Realliance Network, because all this kind of wisdom that the Realliance Network around the world has gathered from operating in crisis contexts and implementing permaculture and regeneration, the network has kindly gifted this into this course. So we really hope that it's useful for practitioners, not only people from humanitarian NGOs, but especially we wanted this course to be available for free. And that's why we think Kaya Connect is such an amazing platform as well, because it's openly accessible to so many people. And we wanted this to be available for free also for community responders. So people who are, on the ground, such a silly term. We're all on the ground, I hope, unless we're in space. Some of us are, I guess. But people who are operating in crisis contexts and trying to meet the needs of their community in ways that also build ecosystem health. So we really wanted to make this course accessible for free in partnership with you all at Kaya. And we wanted to make sure that the course was just an introduction to get people excited about the idea of learning from living systems, learning from movements like permaculture, regeneration, agroforestry, agroecology, and of course, thousands and thousands of years of amazing wisdom from people who've been doing this work, such as indigenous communities and land-based communities. This is really just a taster course for now. We're hoping, of course, and Faye and Carmen, you'll know this, that we really hope there'll be more courses very soon. So a little spoiler alert there. But we wanted this introductory course to really sing to people's hearts, give them the real skills they need to be able to learn more, because we know that anywhere that listeners are in the world, there will be amazing permaculture teachers near to you who will help you contextualize some of this information into your localities. So we really still think that there's still work to be done. So once you've done this course, it's about 2 hours online, and you'll get a fantastic certificate that you can show your friends and post on LinkedIn. And remember to give us 5 stars on the course, if you want, please. But hopefully you can use this certificate as a way to show people that you've started your learning journey, and then continue it with local permaculture teachers, or through getting permaculture teachers to come to your organization if you're with an INGO to teach you more and help embed some of this into the policies and practices of your INGOs, because we really need this kind of change. And we hope that this course can be a little bit of a seed for planting these ideas in you and in your colleagues.
Well, actually, the first time I met James, it was for a video recording, and he just asked me, we need you to shoot a video. Was it about sustainability or something? I don't even remember what. Yeah, and I did a video and I sent it to James, and we didn't talk again after that. So one day I'm just scrolling through my emails, and I got another one, and James was like, so there's this course going to record a course and publish it. And I was like, okay, this is the first time. And I was happy. And when I personally read the script, it was very exciting, mostly because it also connected with my journey to starting permaculture in a way that we always say nothing for us without us, because most of times, like most of organizations use refugees not as people who need support, but as like bait for funds and something. It happens. I mean, it's so sad that some people just throwing in the word refugee a few times into a few sentences, and it kind of some kind of borders, and it's not actually the real people they're working for. It happens a lot. And also it connects to the way my job, where I was collecting data and it didn't feel right. So to be the person who goes to the community, and I felt it was in some ways not dehumanizing, but I didn't feel like I was having impact on the people that I was doing this with. And that's why I shifted from doing that for money to actually working together with the communities to kind of see how like I can help build something for them. And learning about sustainability and regeneration, it kind of felt it kind of gave me that same feeling I had in the beginning, that feeling that inspired me to do this. it was like, well, yeah, this is now at another level of how do we make it stronger? Like, how do we learn to actually build these systems, not only heal the ones that have been destroyed, but also build stronger ones that will not only sustain people, but also preserve all the resources for even the next generations, that will teach people about everything around them, and how do we do this for ourselves? How do we not wait on what comes from somewhere? So yeah, I was really excited to do the course. And what I expect from people who come across this course is for them to like feel that connection also. I tried my best. I tried my best to kind of convey the emotion alongside the words, and I hope that it is inspiring for them. I hope that it's something that inspires them to do better. It gives them a good beginning to actually dig deeper into this other world, because when I talk about permaculture, I feel like it's a different kind of system. It's a different kind of world that we were not taught about in school. We were not taught about it. Well, we lived a part of it, but nobody taught us there was another option than the main design system of how life should be. So yeah, I really hope that this can give a good introduction to digging deeper and then discovering all the gold down there. Yeah.
Also, just to say, we are so lucky to have Rolande on the course. Rolande is an internationally renowned permaculture teacher. So teaching alongside Rolande was such an honor for me. So Rolande, thank you for doing the course. I know everybody's going to be so inspired by you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah, we feel very honoured that you've chosen Kaya to publish that course. And as you mentioned, James, earlier, everybody that wants to access that course can access it for free. That's part of our mission to help communities and people around the world access the tools and resources they need. So I think that hopefully lots of people listening to this will find this really exciting, and will start to enroll in that course and learn a lot more about permaculture. I could listen to you both all day. It's so inspiring, so exciting. I love hearing about this world, and just the sustainability aspect of it. And I just think there's so many exciting things that you guys want to achieve. There's so many long-term goals. If we can try and condense that into, if you would have a magic wand, what would your vision be for the humanitarian sector through that regenerative lens? If you had sort of one wish, what would you hope to achieve?
Well, now this is not a hard question, but well, there's just a lot. I know. Which one would I do? Probably I would restrict the negativity towards regeneration. And in an example, I mean, we are doing this work. We're like the good guys here, but we know there are systems and like big systems, very wealthy systems that are built and continue to grow against everything that we are doing. So if I had a magic wand, what I would do is like not destroy them, but turn them towards doing things sustainably. And yeah, I know many big companies talk about doing things sustainably, but I mean the actions and the products on the market and the kind of profit they want to make from this does not reflect them actually doing what they claim to do. So yeah, I would just turn every like every system built against our work to actually do the sustainable work. Yeah. I think that would make much help than shifting. It's okay to work locally. It's okay to have people work locally and create their own systems. But sometimes it feels like shifting the burden to local people for problems that are global and that are being caused by um, societies that these local people they didn't even contribute that much to it. Like, well, there have been studies that the people who work a lot towards rebuilding the systems are not actually the people who destroyed the systems. And that in some ways does not feel right, though it's the only option we have to work with right now. I mean, these people, most of times it's even poor people who have a lot other things to worry about, who are now working hard even to rebuild their systems, because this is the only thing they have. I mean, everyone else can buy just another plot in a more in a cleaner environment. Somebody else can buy a fan or whatever the resources they need to transform the air in their houses. Anyone can travel wherever they want, but the local communities that don't have this access, they don't have money to buy everything to make life easier for them, are the ones trying to heal wounds created by people who can actually run away from their mistake anytime, anywhere. Yeah, and sometimes it feels unfair. So yeah, sometimes it feels unfair. Yeah.
I so agree, Roland. Thank you for pointing that out, because basically all of the harm, most of the harm is created by the global north, and yet it's mostly people in the global south who are feeling the worst effects of the climate crisis. So you're right, it's so unfair. It's so unfair. And I mean, we talk about the difference between sustainability and regeneration. I like to think of sustainability as kind of interventions that minimize harm or stop harm. And then regeneration we think of as going maybe a bit deeper, a bit richer, a bit further in a way, as to creating more capacity to sustain life and abundance. So it's they're different in a way, but I feel like sometimes to achieve regeneration, we also have to look to sustainability initiatives to stop harm. And this is exactly one of those moments of harm that you say, Roland, that so much of industry in the global north and so much of the decisions and the money in the global north is going towards creating destruction that mostly affects people in the global south at the moment, and the harshest effects there. So if I had a magic wand, of course, we'd have to stop that, first of all. We'd have to rethink the way that our societies and economies work so that it's less focused on, or entirely not focused on, creating harm to people and planet, but is instead refocused. The paradigm, like we were talking about before, the paradigm shifts towards creating more space for health and life and abundance, learning from nature, learning from living systems of how to do that. And I think also, if I had a magic wand, I'd just say to policymakers and people who make decisions within humanitarian NGOs and agencies is to go take this course on Kaya, this introduction to regenerative humanitarian response, and then go on a permaculture design certificate course. It's a 2-week course that will be taught by a local permaculture practitioner to you. Find a PDC, a permaculture design certification, go on that 2-week course, because I mean, people come to permaculture thinking it's about gardening, right?
Yeah.
And it's so much more than that. It's actually a whole new way of thinking. It's like a revolution in the way that you think, and the way that we can apply permaculture to of course, agriculture systems, like some people think it is, but way beyond this, to the way that we meet all of our other needs, the way we build our houses, the way that we travel, the way that we live our lives. So,
Mama,
yeah, if I would wave a magic
Mama,
wand, it would be a
maybe
paradigm shift. Let's change the way that we think in relation to the living world, and then filter that into our policies and practices in the agencies or organizations that we work within.
Yeah, I mean, they're very, very big, important topics that are extremely relevant in today's world. So I suppose to just sort of close off, really, we've spoken about some really interesting, inspiring, empowering things, and I'd love to sort of just get some closing remarks really from you all. I think from me, I've really learned that permaculture is so much more than I think what lots of people initially assume it to be, and it's really about kind of regenerating land, rebuilding resilient local systems and communities. But I think one thing that really touched me in this podcast is the creating hope for future generations. You know, that for me, that's the sustainability piece that really sort of touched me. It's that hope piece, and also the fact that when we provide local communities with that empowerment to lead and build these resilient systems and sustainable communities, it gives them that stake in the game, that skin in the game. And I think that's then what encourages them and inspires them and gives them that passion to fight the good fight and have that stake in the future that we create. So I think that's some of the takeaways for me from this podcast, and just thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts today and telling us more about the course on Kaya. So I'd love to invite all of you to share your closing remarks as well, and yeah, just thank you again for joining us on a lovely Friday morning.
Thank you so much, Faye, and thank you, James and Rolande, for the privilege of this conversation. I felt incredibly grounded, inspired, and there's also very sharp reminders as well in what you've shared. You know, I came into this talking to you about before we started recording about soil. Say, oh, I'm really, really interested in soil. Let's have lots of soil conversations later date. And I still want to have those conversations. But you've really spoke to how, you know, we bandy this word like holistic around a lot, but it really is, you've really put this in this frame of everything that we do. And you're talking about regenerative approaches, and I think it's about us as humans as well, right? About reminding ourselves about what it means to be human, and in support of assisting other humans, like what are we doing, and returning to that. I mean, Rolande, you said it about doing no harm, and you know, obviously that's the central tenet of humanitarian work, but we as a sector have to take a really long, hard look at where our structures and approaches and systems have caused harm and continue to do so, and what we can do, proactively do, to mitigate that as we rebuild this sector and repair these relationships and, you know, links with communities. So it's been so inspiring to hear you speak so candidly, and I'm definitely going to take the Kaya course. I definitely want to check that out, and I really think everyone should do that too. So thank you, really. So I'll come now to our wonderful guests. Rolande, would you like to share any closing reflections?
Thank you so much. I'm just so happy. I'm always happy to have conversations like this, because I always say, like, I'm not the most amazing person out here, but I have the chance to like speak. I have the chance to share in the names of other people I'm representing now, and I'm so happy that I am sharing our story and getting it out there. I'm so happy that my words can help make a difference in the world, different, like beyond what I can do with my hands. And I'm always happy for you and other people offering platforms like this and putting us there, because sometimes living in a camp, it really feels like being taken away from the real world. And yeah, I'm so happy for everything we talked about. And I mean, the main point of today was like how do we live in harmony, like with nature and the people, which is the core of permaculture. And I hope that many people are going to take the course and also remember it's just the starting point, and also go deep and actually open up to this new world, this new discovery. It's very big. We can't talk about all of it in one day, but yeah, I would really love to talk more different subjects, and also I love to learn a lot. So yeah, I always learn, and I'm sure I've learned a lot today too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. James, can we bring you in for some closing reflections?
Thank you so much, Carmen, Faye, and Rolande. It's been such a joy to share space and speak with you all. And I've, come away with so much learning and also so much hope, as Faye said, because, like we were saying, we are living in the polycrisis of so many intersecting crises. Humans have this amazing capacity to change the world around us, change the world that we're part of, I should reframe as. So we can make change, and we need rapid change now. So I'd say to all those listening, allow yourself to be changed as well by movements like permaculture and regeneration. Do the learning, share with your colleagues and friends, because we need this hope, we need change, and we need to create space for the life that sustains us on this planet to flourish alongside us. It's not just humans here on this planet. We need to create space for all the other beings that we share life with, all the other species to thrive as well. So thank you so much for giving us space to share this. And I really hope that all of the listeners enjoy the Realigns course.
Thank you so much. What an absolute pleasure. Faye and I have it's just been such a joy to spend this time with you. So thank you so much. Rolande, James, Faye, thank you for being here for today's episode of Fresh Humanitarian Perspectives from the Humanitarian Leadership Academy.